Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Foxhill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is the reason I get up to speak is I obviously don't have the familial connections and the land or geographic connections with Mr. Levarity of the two members who have spoken before. But I had made up my mind in these last years, as people who were associated with my parents passed off the scene, that whenever they do, as a way of connecting with my own parents, I would involve myself in paying tribute to those persons connected to them. When I was a little boy, and in 1967, and the government changed, Warren Levarity became the Minister of Out Island Affairs. And that became the connection between my mother and himself, because she worked as his secretary during the time he was minister. And perhaps people in this era would not know how important that appointment as a secretary was, because prior to that, Bahamian secretaries to ministers were far and few between. When the PLP came to power in 1967, there is a photograph, at least we in our household call it a famous photograph, because I think it's the first time that any one of us had seen a member of our family in the newspaper. My mother is standing up with, do you remember the photograph? Yeah, with June Morrow was in the photograph as well. About Helen Smith was there, about 4, 5, 6 women. And this was the first crew of Bahamian women who would serve as the secretaries to ministers. And that came under the PLP watch. So that's the connection. And I thought, and I thought to myself, Mr. Speaker, that I wouldn't let the opportunity go by. My mother having passed away, and I could hear her voice in the background saying, you know, Orderly, you got to get up and say something.
Yes, Orderly.
So Orderly has gotten up and said, I recognize the connection. He must have been a heck of a fellow to win that election in 1960 against insuperable odds, and therefore establish the beachhead of freedom, which remains to this day, as the member for West End said, from 1960 to the present. And those people have never wavered. Never wavered. When did they waver? Oh, yes, right. But for a brief moment. West End. So that's the reason I stand. I want to pay tribute to him, to express my condolences to his family, and on behalf of my mother, who's not here to say it for herself, my condolences. And I also wish, having just discovered the passing of the member for East Grand Bahama's father, who up until recently was my constituent. I think he's actually moved to Grand Bahama to be with his son, has passed away. And of course we know the familial connection with the former Governor General. So that's my brief statement. I thank him for his contribution, thank his family for lending him to us, and may he rest in peace.
Thank you, Honourable Member.